The Perthshire Paperweights these are views of the outside of the factory. The Perthshire Paperweight company is rather unique in that it only makes paperweights. Paperweights are not part of a large glass line of other objects, flatware, stemware, and the like. They only make one product, paperweights. Here we see a number of the solid colored glass rods that are used in the making of the canes. And here is a long metal rod has gathered up on the end a number of these solid colored glass rods. This is going to be the core of one of the canes. You see he puts it into the glory hole or heating furnace and then rolls it on the smooth metal plate. Constant heating and rolling will produce a homogeneous mass that can be then pushed into a shaped mold. There you see the mass is not quite small enough yet. A little more heating, and there producing a star-shaped rod of a solid color. The rod is pulled from the mold carefully so as not to distort it. And as the glass cools, you can begin to discern its true color. Now this star-shaped rod is taken to a small furnace filled with opaque milk white glass, dipped in and coated. It's carried back to his workbench and glory hole, and now this is dipped into a colored ground or powdered glass and then rolled. This will impart a very fine layer of color over the milk white opaque glass. The end is cut because this is where distortions arise, and now this is placed into a mold, heated and pushed in to give another shape. So now we have a solid colored star with the milk white glass over it, a layer of color over it. This is taken now to one of the large furnaces where the clear crystal glass is kept, dipped in, and now the whole thing is cased in crystal glass. And let the excess run off, and then after being shaped, another boy with a rod, they're placed and pulled like taffy into a very, very long, thin rod or cane. Since this is a simple cane, they can pull this almost 30 feet. Then they are cut. And this is a portion of it. You see the solid colored star and the white around it, and the color is just that powdered color that is on the white, and the clear crystal is over it. Now the piece that was left on the rod is kept right there, and it is rolled and shaped, dipped into the crystal clear glass, put a layer of clear on it, rolled on the metal plate. This is called margarine, by the way, the margarine plate, and process of margarine. Now it is dipped into powdered color glass and heated and rolled, shaped, the end cut off. Taken down and dipped into the opaque milk white glass. It's just a process of layering different glasses, different colors, and shaping into various molds. Now another color added, and now into one of the molds again. This can be repeated a number of times. Now it dipped into the crystal clear glass. Let the excess run off. He's putting it into the furnace just to keep it molten or pliable, soft, and once again pulled. So there it is. You see the original star, and there you see it over, now becoming the core on the right of a more complex cane. And here you see a number of the simple canes. There's one with a P for Perthshire, and here are the canes within a weight to show how they appear. The outer crystal layer disappears when it's put into the cane, and you only see the white. Here are some of the canes made up into a weight with a swirl cane, and here it is in the actual weight. Now, they can take one of those canes that just came from the last, that complex cane, and then even build more onto it. Here are a number of molds, and utilizing the complex cane that had been made before, they're just building more and more layers on it, and dipping it into the various glasses, either the crystal, as you see here, and then rolled and shaped, now being dipped into the opaque white, milk white glass, and rolled again, put into a mold, and now something a little different. Here is a color from one of the colored rods that had been shaped, and when you want to add a thick layer of color other than milk white or crystal clear, then the color is added in this manner. A mass of the colored glass is softened and then pulled over, literally pulled over the rod being built up. This color is then rolled to shape, and then a powdered color placed over it. And the complexity of these canes is only limited by the imagination of the worker. One more dip and shape, now once again into the clear glass, and you see we have quite a bit of bulk here. Rolled and shaped, and now it's going to be pulled. As the canes become more complex, you cannot pull them out as far as the simpler canes. Here is an example of a complex cane, and the blue color is the color that was pulled on. You see the small cane in the center, which was the original cane, and then has built up. Now we see bundles of these canes. Each cane that was pulled out will then be cut into small lengths according to each color. Since every cane that is pulled is different, it's individually made. They are all sorted out and placed in these bins. Then they are taken just at random, however, to the taste of whoever's putting them together, and they're tied into bundles. And these bundles will then be made into compound canes. Here is one of these bundles picked up on the end of one of those iron rods, steel rod, and there you can see the wire still on. It's being heated in a glory hole. Now the wires are being removed, and very carefully the canes are rolled until they all kind of melt just slightly, but enough to hold them together. And then see the boy at the left ready to receive one end of the mass, and now it's pulled out. So we're having the first of the compound canes. The others, we had simple cane and a complex cane, which is a further variation of the simple cane, and now a number of simple canes bound together into a compound cane. And they're picked up here in a wooden paddle and put in the annealing oven again to be cooled slowly. And there, on the end of this iron rod, you can see the first of the compound canes. And this is what they look like up close. See a rather complex cane in the center and a number of canes around. And here we have from our original, you see the simple cane, complex, and compound there. I mean the simple cane with just the three colors, and there's a simple cane in the center surrounded with the complexity of the added molds and colors, and here we have the same star all the way around the periphery. Here is another, a compound cane, and it is covered with various colors, the opaque white, the greens, and the yellows, which are pulled on in various layers. Give you some idea of the size when they are pulled out as compared to the end of a finger. This cane here has almost 26 different elements, canes that were made, that were all combined to form this small millefiori. And here is another of the compound canes. It almost by itself appears to be a paperweight. A tremendous amount of detail. The glass has the ability to be, or the property, that when stretched it will keep the pattern, and then almost to infinity. Now here are some simple canes being cut with a rotating saw that just actually have a little stop there, and these are the simple canes to be used in the what they call their bread and butter weight. This is a production weight that doesn't change from year to year. They're not dated, and it is probably the main weight that's made at the factory. Even these weights are not alike, because the girls use whatever canes come out from day-to-day production, and they vary in shade and in color, and so they are just at liberty to pick whatever color combinations from the canes that are available. Now here is one of the setups all together, and you notice the P in the center. Of course it's backwards because when it's picked up from the back. The bottom is actually the top of the weight. And here they are in these little metal frames, and into the main part of the factory. The canes are placed on a plate. Here is the worker has a gather of clear glass which he dips into a bin of ground glass color. It's blue, and you see he heats it, picks up some more of the color, and then he will heat and roll until the color is a nice even layer over the surface of the clear glass. While he's doing this, the millefiori and that little metal plate are being heated underneath to bring them up to a good hot temperature, and then the clear glass with the ground blue color dipped into the mold and pick up the millefiori. And then there they are. Now he sits in a special chair called a cradle with the rails, and keeping the glass moving, he shapes it with the various tools. Now that is dipped into the clear crystal to make up the main bulk of the paperweight. It is carried back by a older, more skilled worker who will now shape the paperweight into its familiar ball shape. The instrument he's using now is actually a soup ladle filled with wet newspapers, and this is what imparts the very high polish to the surface of the weight. Now he's pinching in the base. Do a little more high polishing. He keeps dipping it into that big yellow bucket filled with water, and evidently it's the steam that forms as the paper touches the glass that causes the polishing action. Now they have a bucket of fine sand, and the boy takes it over, gives it a tap, and the weight falls into the sand. Picked up with a special little shovel, let the sand fall through, and taken to the annealing oven. Here is shown the various stages in the making of this simple weight. Here with the glass gather, here shaped and ready to be cut from the metal rod. Here are the elements of the weight laid out on a table, the simple millefiori, and there they are as incorporated into a weight. This is a half weight showing the color of the ground, why they use just a small amount of powdered glass color to give it. If it were solid, it would be too dark. Here the girl is setting up an end of the day weight, which supposedly was that at the end of the day's production, all the canes and things they had left over were thrown together to make a weight. But here at Perthshire, there seems to be a pattern into this seemingly haphazard arrangement, because the girls do have all of the leftover canes, but they kind of break them and shape them so then there is a sort of pattern to most of their end of the day weights. They make sure that the colors and different shapes. Now, of course, what she sees is not what's going to be in the weight, because that'll be the bottom. It's the weight picked up from that aspect. So this is the finished weight, and you can see the effect that's achieved. Now, the production of a very small millefiori arranged in concentric rings. And these designs are made, and then the metal forms are machined, and then the various canes are pulled to the correct size, and then the girls put them together. They will be incorporated into weight. Now here is a solid rod of ruby glass, and they're just going to use that little bit he is pinching off, and that will be incorporated into the base or the ground of this weight, the ground being the color underneath the canes or millefiori. Now he has a blow rod, which is a hollow rod with a little bit of crystal clear glass on, and over this the ruby red color is placed and then pulled over that crystal clear glass. Now he can blow this into a bubble. So what he'll have is a bubble, the outside being ruby glass and the inner lining being clear glass, and he blows it out to make a little hole and then open it up until he has a goblet. And there it is, and that's, again, remember, it's ruby glass on the outside, a bit of clear glass on the inside, and now he's going to fill that goblet with crystal clear glass. And this is going to be shaped and then pinched off, and what he'll end up with will be a glass ball, a solid glass ball, clear on the inside and a thin layer of ruby on the outside. Now we'll cut the excess off, and there is the ruby ball. Again, if they had used just solid color, solid ruby, it would make for a very dark, dead looking color. Here he's picked up the concentric millefiori, put it in the mold again to make sure the shape is right, and there he is rolling it, and you can see the millefiori on the ruby ground. Now this is taken over to one of the large furnaces, and a gather of clear glass picked up to make the paperweight ball. It is shaped and polished, and then sent in an annealing oven to cool. But this weight is not finished because it is designed to be a faceted weight. So the finished weight will now go next day after it's cooled to the polishing room, and on this large carborundum wheel these skilled technicians, without marking, just freehand, will cut a number of facets into the side and one on top. They're concave, and you see a number of these weights done. And now, on a very fine polishing wheel, the rough facets are polished clear, and here is the finished weight. And you see, when you hold the weight up to light, why they make the ground the way they do, with such a thin layer of the ruby glass over clear glass. It gives a very beautiful deep color to the weight. Now here are some of the millefiori or canes. Those are simple canes, and here are more simple and complex canes of the various productions. Here are canes for a special type weight with crystal clear around, and here are some of the very large and complex canes. And it's amazing, you could search through boxes of these scraps and never find two alike. Here are canes in the mold, here they are in the paperweight. Of course, once they're put together into the weight, you see that they do kind of meld together a bit and seem to dim in color. And here are a number of the canes put together in sort of a millefiori portrait. Another view of the Perthshire factory. Building on the left is the new addition. This is the original building. We're seeing now the lamp workers, the men who work with the blowpipes. Here the flowers and the animals and the little figures that are put into the paperweights are made. Starting with a small millefiori cane with a P in the center, which is the mark of Perthshire. This will be the center of a flower, and the little petals are added. The petals are made by the younger workers at the end of the week from special canes that are drawn, and they're just shaped into these little bulbous shapes. And then the lamp worker will make them into petals. The torch runs on gas and compressed air. And each figure, as you can see, is individually made and shaped. I would imagine that this would get rather old, because for any series of these special weights incorporating these flowers, the series will run anywhere from 300, 350 to 500 weights, and with the losses that happen when they put the weights together, he would probably have to make almost double that to have enough of these figures for the required amount. So you can imagine making 1,000 of these flowers and 1,000 of another type would kind of get rather boring, I would think. But I have watched them, and he seems to mix things up. They don't always make the same weight daily. Now that flower you just saw was put in their little annealing oven to cool, and it will be made into a weight combined with canes. And here, this is a special size cane, and they are cutting it. Because of the thickness of the cane, they can only just put a little nick in it with the saw, and then she breaks them with the plier. Now she's gathering them up and placing them into a special frame. This is really not easy to do. I've tried it. And the trick is to get each of the canes touching, one on either side, and get them all lined up. And it takes quite a bit of dexterity to manage this. Now there's the flower that you just made, and it is placed face down on this, as you see there, on that metal frame. And then next to it is the circle of green canes, and they're putting their little sides up on there, so they were going to pick that up first to shape the glass. Here is a clear glass, and pushed into the mold, back into the mold, to be sure it's the right size. And now it is put over the flower. And there is the flower surrounded by the canes. And now this will be taken over and dipped into clear crystal to make the ball over the flower and canes, and now shaped into the familiar paperweight shape. After shaping and polishing, the weight will be then separated from the rod and put into the annealing oven. Here are the flour in the weight, and a weight that has been split in two to show how the straight rods were bent in shaping the weight to form the basket. And there you see. Showing you some close-ups of the flower. Now another flower being made. There you see the petals and the small cane with the Perthshire pea. He's now heating up the carbon block. That is torch, and he's going to make a flower that will go into that bouquet weight. First, the Perthshire pea. And now the petals of the flower. Here, back in the main shop, the individual flowers of the bouquet are placed on a metal frame. There are 3 flowers and a bud. Placed face down. And now the mold or shaping part of the frame is placed. And now we have here, this is going to have the deep blue ground for these flowers, and here is the solid color. Here has a blowpipe with a bit of clear glass on the end, and he's just giving a little blow to get a little bubble going. You see his assistant has the solid color glass, and now he's going to pull that color, as you saw in the previous film, over the clear glass. And there he is shaping it. He's using a wet wooden shaper, and he spins it around, cool it, and now he's forming a little nipple on one end, and now he's blowing, and you can see the nipple quite clearly. And this is so that he can knock that nipple off, and he'll have a little opening, and that little the opening he'll use there to open it into the goblet shape, which he's doing right now. Now he's going to do it a little different. He's going to use a file it a bit, and knock the goblet completely off the metal rod into one of those rings. And now he'll take a rod with clear glass and pick it up, and he's going to shape this into a ball with the blue color on the outside and clear crystal on the inside, and that will be used to pick up the 3 flowers in the bud. And we'll have a deep blue but translucent ground. I'm shaping it. Trimming. And giving it the correct shape so when it enters the mold it will pick up the flowers evenly. Okay. Okay. Making sure that the size is just right. And here he goes for the gather. Now this is shaped. And then dipped into the large furnace to gather up the crystal clear glass that forms the bulk of each paperweight, and then shaped and pinched. And then cut from the rod and put into the annealing oven. Here is the finished weight. There are the flowers, and there they are encased in crystal. Here's a sprig of holly with canes. These are the white, milk white, opaque glass rods, and here we have one. Now, again, he's going to pull some of the white over clear on a blowpipe. White is pulled over the clear glass, shaped, and then blown. Next he will form a little nipple. Which when knocked off will leave an opening. And through this opening, utilizing his pinchers, he can open it up and make the goblet form we've seen before. The goblet will be filled with clear glass. It will be trimmed and shaped, and it will form the ground. There will be a white ground to pick up the holly, green holly with its red berries. Checking over the alignment. Putting the form on. And picking up the canes and flower. And there is the finished weight. Here are some of the flower weights made at Perthshire. Flower and millefiori on blue ground. Red flower on latticino. White flower on clear crystal. Pansy, latticino with one ring of blue millefiori. Flower with striped petals. The flower in the green basket. This a weight from a few years ago production, a marvelous dahlia with over 200 petals. Making glass paperweights. J.J.Tarsitano. Now, in this film, we are going to see a number of unusual items being made. The first item to see is the making of things which are twisted. Thing. See a rod with some plain color will be dipped in a cup full of clear glass, then rolled into shape, and now they put on a device sort of like an egg beater, and one man crank the other the rod, and they pull out and end up with a cane with a twisted pattern in it. Let it down. Here we see the procedure again, filled with plain glass, and the solid color rods placed. There is a little device, it's a geared device. He's seeing his rod, and he turns the handle, gear it up to turn at a rapid rate, and they move it out, stretch it out, and twist it. Here are some examples of this process. These canes are going to be a weight called the swirl, and the handful of cut canes are cleaned and then swelled and then laid in this special mold, cast iron mold, which is over a spider, this grill-like metal with a flame underneath, and you see the grooves are cut inside, and in each groove one of these twisted canes is placed, and then the whole thing heated up. There is one there, black and white pistons placed, and there is another one. Now a glob of clear glass is in and picks up all of these canes, and then rolled and shipped into the hole to soften, and then out onto the chair, and the end cut off. And you can see by judiciously applying pressure as they roll in one direction, we've already started the swirl appearance. The canes, the twisted canes, are twisted upon themselves. Now a piece of a very elaborate cane is placed in the center mold, and this glass with twisted canes is put in, picking up in the center. Now you're pressing it down. Here it is being rolled into shape, and you can see in the center of the spiral or swirl the millefiori cane that was placed. Now the entire piece is dipped into the clear glass and up, and here we have the whole thing, and the worker using his various paddles and tools will shape it into the all of the paperweight. We're using actually the cup from an old ladle filled with newspapers. And this is a very good device for putting a high polish onto the glass. Now a little flame polishing and then tapped off into the fine sand, and then to be picked up and put into the annealing oven. It will be left here for 24 hours with slowly to room temperature. Here are the constituents or components, and there is the finished weight. Now they are setting up for the making of a paperweight bottle or perfume bottle, and they are setting up a scattered millefiori all canes, and setting up a small one which will go into the cup, and a large one which will into the bottle. And there they are, all arranged in the cast iron molds. And here they are out in the factory being heated up. There they are, the millefiori at the bottom of the cup that will shape the bottom. Now the worker takes a hollow rod, and dips up a batch of the clear crystal. He will then roll this and blow it, just to get a small hole into it. And now he'll gather the more glass onto this, and he'll bring it to his chair and shape it, roll it. They have to keep that rod moving and turning, otherwise, as you see, the glass will just fall off because it is so soft. Okay, now it's being heated in a glory hole. Now with the torch they're heating up the millefiori that are at the bottom of that shaped cup, and into the cup pick up the scattered millefiori, and there they are. This will be the base of the bottle. He makes the base slightly concave and shapes the bottle and keeps blowing gently into the pipe to keep the interior of the bottle properly shaped. Now, here is his assistant with a gather of clear glass, and he'll dip it now into ground glass, a deep blue. The particles will then melt. He puts it in the glory hole and dips it again. It's a good coating of this color, and it will then run and form a even coating of color over the clear glass. And now he takes a blob of colored glass and puts it to the bottom of the bottle, covering the millefiori. It's just shaping it, and this will be the gold of the millefiori, and in the finish allows them to glow from seen inside and not to be visible at all outside. Enlarging the interior of the bottle. Shaping. Polishing. Blowing. Now the bottom of the bottle is pretty well finished, and his assistant will appear. He's now cutting from where he's going to make the cut. Here comes his assistant with a very small gather of clear glass at the end of a solid rod. And he shapes it with just a small butt of glass. The assistant comes around and he will stick that to the bottom of the bottle. Cools it. And now he'll take off from the top. And now he can finish the upper portion of the bottle, the neck and the opening for the stopper, which is now heating a grill. Trimming with a pair of shears. Heating, and now shaping the mouth of the bottle. Cooling with compressed air. And now he'll cut it free with a special pickup. The assistant will carry the bottle off to annealing to be cooled slowly. Here is the bottle when taken in the annealing oven the next day before faceting. Here one of the workers in the cutting room with using a very large carborundum wheel cuts the facets freehand into the bottle. Here is the bottle with the rough facet punty in, and now they are polished. And the polishing is a very tedious and slow process. And here is the bottle, faceted, which faceted. Now at the desk of the bench worker, and he will be making a penguin to be a base penguin meat. The body of the penguin is made of a deep cobalt blue because the black glass is very difficult to work and you'll use black for the wings and feet, and head will be of this blue glass. On the milk white glass. A little push for the beak. And now his white shirt front will be added. Now black glass be used to place the little wings and feet. our metal and he is in the faceted blue flash weight. Makes this pen weight, and there's one weight, the hollow sphere. There's the one in a F, showing how it is placed. And here you see the thickness of the glass, and here's the swap complete with the fasten it. Magnificent weight. Here are penguin weight various steps for polishing. Now, looking at production of weights, very, very high of this one. Now, doubly by the owner. Above the weight, here the antenna of the butterfly. All these weights are noxious and higher than seconds. These weights destroy the barrel is just one way into the earth, very nasty and flaws in it. And a pebble weight is literally hundreds of dollars worth being destroyed. The weights are placed in boxes and carried out to this and thrown up. And there they are. Rather expensive garbage. This happens every Friday. They clean furnaces where the glass melted down. And they're taken out now are ceramic rings that float on molten glass. And these rings will absorb the impurities in the glass, which are from the walls. These ovens are turned on. They're made of this special brick, and particles taking off, and with the weights themselves, they didn't have these, they look like half wrists moving together will make a complete ring. They have to flip on top of each furnace's glass, and they take them out then on Friday and throw them out, and just say that because the glass is left the furnace is laid up in these large bowls. Just cool. Take all of the glass out, just a little bit left the net batch for them to work. Takes molten glass out, as you say, and they shovel, and then it comes, and this glass and is over those weights, which already discarded, but just to make sure people discard paper we see flaws out and knocked in. The weights are then covered with molten glass from the process. It's quite a sight. Now, the hot glass, the glass, the waste, the internal stresses changes, causes them to go and pop, and they split out. Here you'll see one there. It's sort of like watching one of those cereal ads. Loud. And here's the top. This ends on 3 of the made of plastics.